So since I'm showing off this awesome cool software that I have, I guess I might as well start with the intro. That's pretty cool, isn't it? So see, did that work with the sound and everything? I don't know. But there's definitely a lag. I can see myself on the actual recorded video, still trying to talk on the phone. How is it going, people? Only half an hour, so you know, fire away with the questions and stuff like that. Yeah, Ahmed Zombie, good to see you, man. Good to see that you all see me. Andy Polini. Now let me just check. So you're watching, haha, greetings from Maryland. The haha, that's Spanish, isn't it? I know these things, so I know Spanish is very big in Maryland, apparently. Amada Gaijin, good to see you. Sweet, made it. So there actually, I gotta admit, there's not a lot of news. So that is what it is, I guess. Yeah, you like the cool intro. So I guess if I pull this down to what most comments are, this is where I'll react. Yeah, Victor's saying that his phone wasn't ringing. I'm sorry, man. I tried calling a couple of times. I just tried again just now, so I'm sorry about that. I don't know what was going on, but I couldn't get hold of you ahead. I was set to go with the hangout, but it was my bad as well that I didn't call you earlier today, so I'm sorry about that. So yes, I'm sorry. Some people as well. I know that some people. Well, there's some people talking about the Colby intro and the timing. It never works for everybody doing these meetups. There's always somebody's got a job or there's not enough notice or something. So yeah, that's pretty cool. But so let me just go into. I guess I'll start with Andy Paulini. So I've got a question. Can I do a video walking in the streets of Tokyo on Friday nights? I guess I could when I had more ability to go out on Friday nights and more of a life. Not so much now. I don't see why I couldn't do that, or someone couldn't do that. I mean, Tokyo on Friday nights is kind of crazy, depending on where you go. I agree, that would make a really good video. I mean, I guess I could try that. Nandemugo, did you parody my intro? I'd like to see that. Really? I've got to check that out. Did you do a parody of my intro? James 91. Oh, so you're gonna come to Nagoya? That's pretty cool. Oh, and reading rugby rules so you can find a training ground. So you're a rugby player. Rugby in Japan is awesome. It's pretty big. Lots of players. Yeah, I played for a long time. I still want to get back into it. I'm this weekend, by the way, November 2, Saturday, the All Blacks, world #1 rugby team from my country, is coming to Japan to play. Last time they played, I think, was during the I think it was during a World Cup in South Africa. It was like we put 120 points on them. But it won't be like this time. Of course, Japan beat Wales, which is a top tier, or at least close to top tier rugby country, which doesn't mean that they can necessarily beat New Zealand, but it means it won't be 100 points. It should be a pretty good game. And of course, as a New Zealander, it's nice to be able to see them here. Question from Jordan Do. Here's a question. I find myself being unsatisfied with my accent lately. Well, that's because you're Australian. I'm sorry, I kid. Now I'm noticing it more in contrast to other Japanese people. Any tips? Karaoke. I find the great thing about karaoke is that you just focus on the sound and the pronunciation. You don't even have to really think about the words so much, but it gets you. When you're in karaoke and you're singing in Japanese with a gaijin accent, with an English accent, no matter how much it might feel natural to speak with a gaijin accent when you're speaking Japanese normally, that never sounds right when you're singing. Of course, singing has its own sort of barriers to it, but I definitely suggest. So sorry, I was going to this. But no, I would definitely recommend that is the main thing. Obviously, just talking with Japanese as much as possible. Another thing which I actually found interesting is listening to other gaijins who are good at Japanese and really trying to work on focusing kind of in a competitive kind of a mindset. What is that person doing that I'm not doing? I used to work around a lot of foreigners, New Zealanders who are very good at Japanese, and I always found trying internally to outdo them was kind of a good way, and it makes you very self-conscious about what they're doing right that you're not doing right. So that's definitely a tip. But yeah, I think karaoke is like the best thing for that sort of thing. So Jordan-do, I hope that helps. The comments are pouring in. This is pretty cool. Do you like that? Does everyone like this kind of a format? I mean, I can change the screen. That's what I love about the software. But I kind of like that I can show you the comments that I'm reading, because I know that there is a bit of a lag. So as they flow in thick and fast, let's go down. So Ahmed Zombie, football sucks. Well, that's up to you. By the way, Ahmed, where are you from? You're asking if I knew any Arab people last week. Are you from an Arabic country? Or Qatar's got the World Cup in 2022, however they got that. But I thought football's kind of popular. I don't know. So James, job training in Nagoya, then moved to Saitama after 2 weeks. Wow, you have to go to Nagoya for job training. Well, the good news about job training in Nagoya is that there won't be anything else to do. Saitama is, well, basically playing rugby and rugby clubs in Tokyo. All the grounds are in Saitama, which is like an hour or more north of Tokyo for where the grounds are. So if you're going to be in Saitama, that will be, yeah, I mean, there'll be like a million rugby grounds and sports clubs and stuff to join. So you're in the best place. Saitama, if you're near Tokyo, that's the best place to play rugby, frankly. So that's pretty cool. Ray Renard, you're moving out to Kyoto in the new year. Good on you. Kyoto is awesome. For all the people I know who have lived there, like, love it. I've never lived there myself, but I think that's a great place to hang out. Ahmed asking about the humidity in summer. Is it as bad as people say? Yes, it is. I've lived in Singapore. In fact, I went to Singapore during the middle of the summer, and it was better in tropical equatorial Singapore than it was in Tokyo, and it really is literally that bad. It's partly because in Singapore and a lot of countries with a lot of heat, they design the whole country for heat. There's shade, there's air conditioning everywhere, there's trees and everything. In Tokyo, however, you've got stuff designed for the winter and for the summer. And for earthquakes and for typhoons, and so it's never properly dealt with. And everything is concrete, there's no shade, and so it's just like a sauna that just enhances, and it's terrible, the humidity, and the fact that nobody, well, at least in Tokyo, nobody drives. When I say nobody drives, lots of people drive, but if you live in central Tokyo, a lot of people don't own cars, so you are stuck out on the streets walking around a lot, where in a country like Australia, when they have heat, everybody just goes around by car. So it is pretty awful. And it is as bad as people say. Like I said, I've been in countries on the equator, and it wasn't as bad as Tokyo, which doesn't make a lot of sense if you think of how far north Tokyo is, but it really is that bad. So scrolling down, let me just go through. How is the humidity? Yes, that's right, Jordan Do. The Wallabies do suck. Thank you for asking. I kind of feel bad for them at the moment. They're going through a bit of a rebuilding phase, but it's always more interesting when the Aussies are strong at rugby. It makes it more fun beating them. So I'm looking forward to seeing them get better, which they are. They are getting better. And the Aussies, they always kind of suck in between World Cups, but they peak at the right time. The All Blacks are always good, and then they drop at the World Cup, and we lose. So it's not fun being a supporter of New Zealand, actually. Where's the King of Morons? So yeah, for some reason, I don't know why, his phone wasn't ringing when I rang him lots of times and stuff like that. We couldn't get it together. We couldn't hook it up tonight, and I'm sorry about that. I know that he was tired. I was still trying to call him. I could still try to get him on here. I do want to try to use this software to get him on using Skype. But also, fact is, I am busy with work, and I'm working at the moment at home, and I need to get off here at 11 o'clock and keep working. So this will just be a short one tonight. And this is also partly an exercise. I just want to use the software, show off how cool and awesome it is, which I think it is, and get your feedback on it. I think this is a cool way to interact and do videos, but the intent was not to do this. I wanted to do a proper 2.5 Oyajis tonight. I'm sorry about that. So apologies to Victor as well. Boom, return to newest comments. So next question is from Amada Gaijin. Any tips for JLPT N1, which is the old JLPT level 1, I guess. Here we go. Concentrating on reading, listening, and the rest of the stuff, not that bad. Really just doing a lot of mock. I think I've said this before, and absolutely, in my experience, having taken and failed JLPT 1 a couple of times, of course, you can do all the cramming on the grammar and the kanji, and you do that over and over. You can prepare for that sort of stuff. The part I personally, it of course depends on what you're good at yourself, but the struggle I always had was with the comprehension. I couldn't read or respond fast enough to the questions. In terms of exam timing and technique, and the questions do get recycled, that's all I can suggest. Just get as many practice exams and keep doing them over and over, because they do recycle the questions and the same type of questions. And it really is. It's not an exam that you pass by just living life speaking nothing but Japanese and reading and writing Japanese every day. It contains questions and content that people don't use every day. I mean, it's like, it is final year. The same level that people use before going into university. So it's not everyday Japanese. So you have to prepare specifically for the test. It's a pain. Take lots of time. You got to take 2 or 3 months, I think. Really set yourself a study schedule. I did that, and I crammed through on comprehension. I always found the listening easy. That's just me. So a lot of people don't. So maybe you should practice that. But practice exams. I think that's the best way. So by my experience, you're doing it right. But, that is a pain. Ahmed, oh yeah, so sorry to ask the personal question, but you're a Berbero-Arab, so yeah, American football soccer rules, right? So Algeria, awesome. I don't know any Algerians, so there you go. You're the first. I consider you someone I'm familiar with, so you're the first Algerian I know. But yeah. I mean, Algeria, Tunisia, that part of the world. I did classics a while ago, and I know that there's a lot of really cool archaeological stuff around there. Algeria. I always found it very. Oh, sorry, just completely off topic on Japan, but I find the recent history of Algeria to be really, really interesting. Obviously, there's been a lot of trouble there, and I find the parallels with what's happened in Egypt in the last year to be very interesting. Although I know that they're, of course, very, very different countries. But that's cool. Okay, no, sorry to ask, but it's interesting to know. The unknown one. Humidity in Tokyo depends on where you're from. Yeah. And I know in America there are some places with crazy humidity, like with numbers as high as Japan, but certainly, I mean, you can have really long periods of above 90-95% in Japan, which just sucks. But yeah, that is what it is. Andy Polini, so you're into Japanese culture, martial arts, and would like to experience city life, but also a bit of the countryside and be able to see temples. Yeah, so, I mean, and I agree. I think if you're coming to Japan for a cultural thing, you want to get more out into the countryside. Tokyo, because there are so many foreigners here, you kind of don't get to have the foreigner experience in terms of being special, and it can be a bit of a ghetto. You can find enough other foreigners that you can have a great time all by yourself without doing much interaction. I think it's better to force yourself into situations that you need to make Japanese friends and experience the culture a bit more. And truth is, the more you get into the countryside, the better you're going to experience that. And if you're interested particularly in martial arts and stuff like that, if you want a bit of city life, honestly, I mean, the thing is, cities like Fukuoka, Sendai, Sapporo, those are great cities. Nowadays, there isn't a major city in Japan without some sort of a decent foreigner population, but certainly they're not Tokyo. Tokyo is a great place to live and work, as a lifestyle. For me, Tokyo works really well. But if you're coming to Japan, you really want to experience, some culture stuff and really get into it. Tokyo is always going to be here, and if you want to come here and live and work eventually, you're probably going to end up in Tokyo whether you want to or not. So I would say if you're coming over here to study and experience Japan, and even Osaka actually as well, Nagoya, I don't really know what there is to do in Nagoya. No, I would suggest actually personally, in terms of cities that I have a really positive image of, I mean, even Niigata is a proper, is a full-on city, but I would say the popular ones that I always hear are really great are Sapporo, Sendai, and Fukuoka. And consider that as well as, of course, Kobe, Kyoto, Nara, Osaka, but those are all very close to the very, very big city of Osaka. But that's kind of good as well, and there's a very different vibe down there living in Osaka as a gaijin. So I don't know, to you, what you're into, but yeah, look outside of Tokyo. Tokyo's always going to be here. I can't live anywhere other than Tokyo anymore myself, but come and check it out. And Asano, good to meet you. Good to see you. Very nice connecting with you and messaging with you on Facebook the other day. I do like meeting with other long-termers with, half kids. And actually, some of the coolest long-term residents I know in Japan are people who are married to Japanese husbands and have kids. I know a few, so very nice meeting you anyway. Jordan, many years in Japan. Have I become a baseball fan? I tried to become a baseball fan. I tried very hard to become a baseball fan, but I could not. I picked the Fukuoka Hawks because Fukuoka is my own hometown, as I consider it, in Japan. That's where my original homestay and school exchange was in Japan. So their coach is Sadaharu O, who's had the world record for number of home runs in a season, which he got like way back in the 60s. And it's kind of it's like the pride of Japanese baseball that they had a player who got this home run record. Interesting character, Sadaharu O, actually. His father is Chinese, but of course, as you may or may not know, Taiwan and Japan, unlike Korea and Japan, although Japan colonized Taiwan, generally speaking, the personal ties and even the official ties are pretty good between Taiwan and Japan. He came back to Japan as a kid and was raised as Japanese, and in spite of what ideas I know some people have that Japanese are kind of very ethnocentric and shut off to Koreans and Chinese, that's not really true. Particularly, someone like Sadaharu O, who has a clearly Chinese surname anyway, he's fully accepted as nothing but a Japanese baseball player, and is distinguished from the import players who came. And when these American ex-major league players came to Japan and started challenging his record, there are a few players. There's Randy Bass and there's a few, trying to remember their names, but every time someone came close to breaking his record, every team would pretty much try to defend his record by walking these home run hitters to stop them breaking O's record. I tried supporting the Hawks, but then there was a year that his record was going to get beaten, and O's own team, whether he gave the instruction or not, his own pitchers were actually walking. They all insisted it wasn't at his instruction. They were doing it out of respect for their coach and his record. But that's pretty shameful that they were basically cheating or performing in an unsportsmanlike way to stop the record getting beaten. And, that finally got beaten this year, which was good news. But I kind of found it hard to support the team after I saw it doing that. So I've tried, but I couldn't get into baseball. And frankly, it's probably for the best because, I am very much into sumo. Sumo is cool, and I do go along and watch at the Kokugikan when it is there. And that's a lot of fun. So it's good to get into something. I tried and I failed to get into baseball. So at the moment, my comments are maxing out, and I am out of time in terms of I've got to get back to work soon. I'm going to do one more refresh, and let me know. Drop in some comments. I'll give it a couple of minutes for this refresh. I'm going to do one more round of comments. Oh, and there are lots of comments, so it just wasn't updating. And this is what drives me nuts about this live streaming stuff. So I'm going to go and do one more round of questions and answers, and then I'm going to have to log off early. So I'm sorry it's a short show today. Looks pretty cool, if I do say so myself. I'm very happy with how this looks. So let's have a look. Miv Mus Studios. What's my favorite Japanese dish? My favorite dish, Japanese or non-Japanese? Well, I'm a New Zealander, so of course I say roast lamb or anything lamb. I don't know. I'm a big fan of Korean food, actually. I really like gochujang, the sweet hot chili paste that they just mix in. Honestly, just cut some veggies, cut some meat, stir fry it in a pan, and put that gochujang in with some rice wine. I went through university on that as a budget meal, and it was great. So yeah, I like Greek and Turkish food. As a lamb food lover, I like roast lamb, of course. And I like Korean food. I do like Japanese food. I don't actually eat it all that often. I guess I had some karaage tonight. I don't think that really counts as Japanese cuisine. But yes, that is the food that I like. Yeah, Ahmed, I was actually looking before this to see if there is any hot news to feature for the 2.5 Oyajis, which I'm sorry, Victor, I couldn't get hold of you, but I could not. There isn't really a lot of news going on. There's the official secrets law, which is kind of getting some interesting comment. I'm not really following it that closely. Some very interesting news actually recently about the relationship between Turkey and Japan. not a deep or high level relationship, but for some reason Turkey and Japan seem to get on really, really well. And I didn't actually realize, but Japan spent $1 billion and actually provided a lot of the engineering expertise for the first ever tunnel under the Bosporus Straits in Istanbul, which of course is the passage of water which links Europe with Asia. So the first ever tunnel under that was built by Japanese people there, and Abe was there to open it up, which is kind of cool. I mean, again, as someone who has chosen to live my life in Japan, I like to see Japan doing right in the world. I like to see Japan having a good image because it reflects, selfishly, it reflects on me. It shows that I chose a good country to live in. So it's always nice to see, Japan being seen to be doing something cool. So, that, but nothing really big. I know that it was kind of funny. The Emperor and Empress actually visited Minato, which is the site of a famous environmental disaster in the 1950s and 60s, where mercury. They weren't aware about issues with mercury poisoning in those days, and so there was a factory there for, I think it was involved the manufacture of silicon, like transforming sands into silicon chemicals to use in silicon wafers and whatnot. The byproduct of mercury was washed off into the ocean, got into the fish. All the local people ate the fish and got mercury poisoning. Very, very nasty. And yes. The company which caused it was kind of run out of business, and it's one of the most famous environmental disaster incidents in history. The Empress's father was president of the company that caused that, but in an earlier time than before when that stuff happened. It actually cast a shadow over the possibility of the royal company couple marrying. There's all sorts of stuff around Minato which I'd love to talk at length about one day. It was a really, really horrible case of the government really tried very hard to protect this company, really unethically. And so, they actually did a visit to the Minato Museum and met with a lot of the victims, which was really nice. It's nice to see that the imperial couple is giving them some profile and talking to them. The mascot of Kumamoto, called Kumamon, this kind of bear character, this guy in a suit, was there, and it's kind of funny. There was an episode where the royal couple got to talk one-on-one with the bear. Apparently, the Empress just leaned over and said, "So is there only one of you?" And the poor bear didn't know how to answer. It was a little bit of an awkward moment, but it was kind of funny. I got some amusement out of that, but no big news at all. Just pretty much the Empress talked to a bear. That was about the most interesting thing that happened this week. So yeah, scanning down. Andy, thanks to me and the other J vloggers. My pleasure. Thank you for not making me a crazy person talking by myself. Tokyo does rule. Tokyo rules so much. I really recommend not coming to Tokyo first, because you'll come here and you'll discover how awesome it is. But the problem is, I think if you come to Tokyo, I'm proof of this. I've lived here nearly 15 years and I've never lived anywhere else, and I couldn't live anywhere else now. And it kind of, you should go and live somewhere else in Japan first, because it's like New York and the rest of America. They're both America, but they're very different Americas. And you should know, I think you should always you can't say that you understand the country without having lived in both. So, but yeah, Tokyo does completely rule. That is my opinion. So Miv Musi Studios are asking, what is a must-see experience while being here? Well, it really depends on what you're into. Everything is here. I would say personally, go for a full day at the sumo. It's theater, it's culture, it's fun. There's sake, there's fat people. It's a pretty cool day, especially going from the morning when there's nobody there and you can sit right outside the dohyo. For me, that was like, even I've been here for years, and when I first did that was like awesome. Sorry, by the way, the comments do move because this thing keeps updating, so I'm trying to move it to keep it in the right place to track the comments. So sorry, it keeps moving around. Zan Avrio, quick question on language. Since I'm already fluent, how do I hear the language? Do I translate to my native tongue? No, I don't. And anyone who's bilingual in more than one language can tell you this. You can't translate. In my experience, simultaneously translating slows everything down by like a quarter, to 1/4 the speed. You can't process, the talking, everything shuts down. You think and you process and you go back in just like you do in English, basically. You just process and go back. And it's funny because it can change the way that you think and your thought patterns, which is kind of freaky when you start going through it. But no, the only way to become fluent in any language is to think in the language. And it doesn't actually take that long, and you don't have to know even that much vocabulary. You just have to be able to use the vocabulary you have on a constant basis, and so that you're not going back to your native language to try to find ways to communicate. It also means you need to change your mind to simplify your thought process to deal with the limited vocabulary you'll have in the new language. There's a little bit of a mental process to it, but no, it works that you're doing everything without conversion. And that's hard to do while studying, but if you're actually in the country and you're hearing and getting bombarded with it all the time, it's exhausting to translate all the time. You can't do it. Your brain will give up on translating, and it will realize that it's easier just to process it in that language, and it kind of flicks like a switch. But this is why I say to people, don't spend forever studying and preparing to go somewhere. Just go there, because that will be much better for this sort of thing. It'll get your brain switched over into the mode that you can accept language much more quickly and easily if you're immersed in it. That's my personal opinion on that. Not that I'm any sort of an expert. I'm going to go to most of the jobs you're aiming for in life are in Tokyo. I mean, Tokyo's got all sorts of jobs, but I'd love to live in Sapporo. And one thing I find about this, and this is true with New Zealand and other countries as well, it's really hard when you're living in the biggest city to imagine living in a smaller city. You just presume that nothing's there, but truth is, when you go there and you spend some time in another city, and you realize, oh, everything is here too. And truth is, there's 3 or 4 million people living in Sapporo. It's a big city. But yeah, when you're in Tokyo, it's like, there must be nothing up there. Everything is in Tokyo. So this is again why I say it's probably good to try to avoid Tokyo in the beginning, because it can twist your perceptions, as it really does for me. I can't imagine life anywhere else, but I think you'll find if you go, and they have great lifestyle. I mean, in many ways, cheaper and much better lifestyle than other cities. But Tokyo, it's just the stimulation, the fact that Tokyo's just got so much stuff is what gets me and what I can't move away from. So Zan, it is understood as naturally as my native tongue, basically. I mean, in terms of, and what I don't understand, I don't understand. But even then, it's not so much like not getting a school test question. It's just like being a kid, hearing your parents use a big word. And over time, at first there are lots of those. Over time, they become less. Wrapping this up soon, I'll answer a few questions. What if Japan was a multicultural country like other countries, and Japanese people understood your first language, English, completely? What do I think I would have been doing other than teaching English? Well, Ray, I don't teach English. And frankly, I mean, Japan is multicultural to its own extent and in its own way. I don't think there's any obligation on Japanese to learn or understand English. It's got 120 million people, and, if you believe Japanese economic statistics, it's still the 3rd biggest economy in the world in spite of being smaller than Britain. So I think Japan does pretty well, but it doesn't need to do anything for anybody else. But, like I say, I'm not an English teacher. I've done English teaching in the past. I've done that as a gig when I was starting out. There's any sort of job here. But the point is that in order to get those other jobs and to work in a normal capacity, you need the language ability and the professional skill, both of them. And then that can be kind of rare, actually. People tend to over-focus on language or have no language skills and be stuck in that profession, but in the gaijin bubble here. I focused on doing both, which is a little bit rare, and that gives me access to certain opportunities that, a lot of other people don't. And that's kind of what I like about being here. That said, there's more and more people who are doing what I did and are catching on to that. But yeah, I think there's plenty of opportunities in Japan outside of English teaching, no question. And Japan HD video, what's up? I'm going to do one last refresh and wrap up. I'm at a gaijin, love the countryside. Japan's countryside is great, and arguably it's getting better because there are fewer people, and they do have good quality of life, and quality of life, like some places like Niseko or like Karuizawa, in terms of, or Shizuoka, you get like the nature and everything. Japan has this image of being this huge kind of city place, but the nature is as good, arguably even better than New Zealand, which markets itself completely on its nature. But I've been to beaches in Fukushima and in Shizuoka, for example, and Izu, that are as good or better than anything I've ever experienced in New Zealand. There's fantastic lifestyle and diversity of different ways to live in Japan. So, absolutely, don't just think it's all Tokyo, even though that's what it is for me. Andy, final question I'm going to take today. Can I make a video on what my agenda looks like in a day? Well, that is, at the moment, it's pretty full. I can give a few of my agendas that I've had in my time here. I'm currently in my 4th job in 15 years in Japan, and I've had very different days in each one of those jobs. Tokyo Sonata, sorry you just got online. I have to wrap up. I have to go back to working now. My day currently sucks a little bit. So can I get some feedback? The sound, the presentation, this all looks good. Do people like having the comments down the bottom? I like having the comments because it shows what I'm responding to. And I think it's kind of cool that I can put you guys on the video as well, not just read your comments back. But this stuff is all, I do love this software, and I'm going to exploit this. I might use this as a basis for doing 2.5 Oyajis. There's lots and lots of cool stuff. I've got these little things I can put all over the place. Bada bing, bada bing. It's all pretty cool, isn't it? I can kind of punch these graphics in and out. I can switch modes to keeping your comments up. And all that sort of stuff. Oh, I want to take out the covering graphics. But yeah, so this is pretty cool. I'm going to keep using this, and I do want to do, if I can get more time in my life, I want to do a regular Japanese language show. And I want to do a solo show in addition to 2.5 Oyajis based on the software. So, tell me what you think of it if you like it. And that is it. So I'm gonna have to log out now. But very good chatting with you all. Thanks for the questions. And yeah. See, people like the comments. I tell you, you get to see yourselves a little bit. The lag is pretty intense, but at least this way you're seeing it the way that I'm seeing it, so that you're not trying to figure out constantly what's going on. That's what I figure. So good talking to you all. And boom, going back to the normal thing. I'm going to say good night to everyone. I didn't tweet this in the beginning, so there's probably fewer people than usual watching tonight. But yeah, anyway, I'm sorry, Victor. I'm sorry we couldn't hook up properly tonight. Let's try to do it again next week. And I'll talk to you all later. Boom, peace. Now how do I stop this?